Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. It's Wednesday, March 20th. Yes, I had to look. Halfway to the weekend. I'm so ready. Before we get started, you know the drill. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video, share it with your friends, and you can ring my bell if you want notifications of when I post new content. Just click that little bell icon. It'll let you know. Music fact of the day, Mama Told Me Not to Come by Three Dog Night. That was written by Randy Newman. It was inspired by his own discomfort at social gatherings. The song was the first #1 hit for Three Dog Night and Randy Newman's first #1 as a songwriter. A lot of people ask me where I get my love of music. Well, part of it's from my grandfather, who totally schooled me on great 40s and 50s music. And then my hippie parents kept that going with 60s and 70s bands. I've been listening to music since I was in the womb. It is such a big part of my life. A little note before we get started. I've just got a text that Alec Murdaugh's mother, Miss Libby, passed away in hospice care. So my thoughts are with everybody who knew and loved her. Lots of death and tragedy in that family in the last few years. We're going to update on Riley Strain and the search for the missing young man there in Nashville. There's some new body cam footage. This is the last known footage of Riley before he disappeared. It's very brief, but Riley does exchange hellos with an officer who is walking around in that area.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
The officer had no reason to approach Riley because Riley didn't seem to be in distress. They don't think there was any kind of an altercation involving Riley. The officer likely would have heard something. This is also the same area where Riley's cell phone stopped pinging, and Nerdy Addict on Twitter is in the area and posted a video today. Law enforcement said that his phone and his Apple Watch both stopped working about the same time. So there was just minutes in between him saying hello to this officer and the phone and the watch stopped working. At 9:53, Riley's phone last pinged on Life 360. Now, the distance where Riley was seen by the officer to where his debit card was found is just a little over 500 feet. At 10:15, Riley's stepdad said Riley's phone was shown to be near that James Robertson Parkway and Gay Street. Around the same time, Riley also spoke to a friend. Now, a family friend, Chris Dingman, said the last text sent from Riley's phone was to a girl he had been talking to. The text had slang that didn't sound like Riley. The girl asked how he was doing. The friend said he sent kind of a scripted text back to her saying, "Good lops." People online have speculated lops means low on power, but Riley's phone was not low on power. March 17th, Riley's debit card is found by independent searchers. And today, the search has intensified around the Cheatham Lock and Dam near Ashland City. It's over 20 miles from where Riley was last seen. A lot of people have asked, why are they looking that far away? I've been to the Cumberland River many, many times, and that current is strong. So it's not out of the realm of possibility if unfortunately Riley fell into the Cumberland, that the currents could have taken him way downstream. Investigators also allowed Riley's family to view surveillance from inside and outside Luke Bryan's bar. That's the one Riley was removed from. All the way to that body cam footage we just showed, showing Riley alive and well and able to communicate in a way that didn't raise any red flags with that officer. He says that several businesses along the route Riley took, they've offered surveillance video, which has helped fill in some gaps up to that police body cam footage. Now they have a larger visual timeline that go with the digital footprints of Riley's path. He also said that Riley was not removed from the bar due to any kind of an altercation, but he also didn't elaborate. Riley did try to go to another bar across the street, but he was denied entry. Food truck workers think Riley may have been in an altercation, but it's not a viable lead according to the friend. There was an altercation in the area with two other individuals, but that did not include Riley. His friend believes that may be why Riley went behind the truck is due to the altercation between the two others. Now, one of the individuals involved in the altercation was able to get away and ran behind that food truck. And the friend thinks maybe Riley thought they were chasing him, which is why we saw Riley running across the parking lot before he hit his head and fell. There's also been no confirmed pieces of Riley's clothing being found, And there were no signs in the area we know he last was that he got sick and vomited. The friend notes the debit card that was found by the independent searchers had no dirt or dust on it, even though it would have been laying exposed for 8 days before it was found. Also, there's been no activity on that card. It is being analyzed for fingerprints. Riley's family told Brian Ensign from News Nation that they're frustrated with the delays in releasing certain footage to the public. Riley's stepdad, Chris, said, "We had not seen anything or really heard from them too much throughout the previous week. So we were getting frustrated. We wanted to see what they had." Another issue his family has heard about is when people are calling tips into Crime Stoppers. Some of those people were told they don't know anything about a Riley strain, and he says that's disheartening. Riley's parents were also on Ashley Banfield, and they said they're frustrated with the police's lack of communication with them. The family also says an investigator wasn't assigned to Riley's case until 2 days after he went missing. That first 48, as we know, is very crucial. And family friend Chris Dingman said they can't understand how discovery of the card didn't escalate that case to a criminal investigation. That in turn would have allowed for more resources to be used. The police department emailed a statement to Fox 17 saying that no evidence of foul play has surfaced and they are working to locate Riley. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigations told Fox 17 they don't respond to these kind of cases unless they are asked to come in. Dingman said the homeless in the area have been extremely helpful and very gracious as they try to track down leads. Now, yesterday, Riley's family had a press conference, and his stepdad, Chris, said, "We feel we need extra resources as we try to get more organized for our family and bring more clues to light. We are very grateful for everyone that's done everything so far. We ask that you would work and help us as we become more organized. We don't want individuals out there alone without us knowing. We appreciate more than you'll ever know about the outpouring we have received. Our goal is still to bring Riley home." They're just very grateful for everybody who has tried to help find Riley. They also made clear they're not mad at the friends Riley was with that night at the bar. Riley's mom, Michelle, said, "He's their best friend. We love these boys like our own. It's just as hard on them as it is on us." Now, it hasn't been officially stated, but I have seen several statements with people associated with the case that there is a chance these boys had to go back up to settle their bar tab before they could join Riley. But when they got back out, he was gone. His family also said there are gaps with footage and cameras pointed in the wrong direction, which has made it hard to know exactly where to look for Riley. Riley's family has also reached out to the Cajun Navy for help. The Cajun Navy started after Hurricane Katrina. The director of operations told News Channel 5 the Cajun Navy was formed when a bunch of good old boys with boats wanted to rescue people after Hurricane Katrina. And since Hurricane Katrina, they have assisted with every natural disaster in the country. They will also have ground searches for Riley. I'm going to tell you right now, don't underestimate some good old boys with big hearts and a boat. People with conspiracy theories are causing the department's resources to be used on things that are not tips, and the police say it's getting very frustrating. Metro Nashville Police Department Detective Anthony Chandler said, "We've had people get frustrated with us. We have to weigh every piece of evidence we get evenly. There's a lot of tips that we are getting that are not tips." Riley's mom broke down at the press conference saying, "He's my best friend. He's everything. If anybody has information, call the Metro Nashville Police Department at 615-862-8600. Let's just hope that there is some resolution very soon. Moving on to Kouri Richins, a little bit of surprising news in this case. A detective with the Summit County Sheriff's Office said that Kouri's mom, Lisa Darden, is connected to the suspicious overdose death of her former partner back in 2006. She is being investigated. She has not been charged with a crime, but they are looking into her possible involvement in the planning and orchestrating of Alec Richins' death. They began looking into Lisa around the time of Kouri's arrest. Detectives have found through the investigation that Kouri and her mom talk almost daily for both personal and business matters. They unsealed a search warrant just recently, so let's go through that and see what they have to say. They start with a history of the case, going through the initial 911 call from Kouri that was made at 3:22 a.m. on March 4th of 2022. That call was about an unconscious male. Kouri stated she and her mom had been celebrating the sale of a house with Eric around 9 p.m. They had a drink and Eric went to bed. She went to sleep with one of their children due to the fact the kid was having night terrors. And according to her, she went back to their bed at 3 and noticed Eric was cold to the touch. Toxicology showed 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. A search warrant was executed at the home, and they seized electronic devices, and they found deleted texts between Kouri and a woman named Carmen. Carmen had a record that included multiple counts of possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute, as well as other drug charges. She had a history with DUI, burglary, and aggravated assault. They go on to say a man by the name of Nick Bonsavage was an associate of Carmen's. He had a chemistry degree and previously had been charged with having a makeshift lab where he was making meth. He was breaking bad. Bonsavage had a boyfriend named Grant Johnson, who is incarcerated in Utah. Investigators requested to obtain jail calls Bonsavage had made from March 1st through the 15th of 2022. And on March 2nd, they heard a call where Carmen and Bonsavage actually were in drug court together at the time. At 2 minutes and 32 seconds into that call, Grant says to tell Carmen hi, and a female is heard saying, "Hey, honey." On March 3rd of 2022, Grant calls Carmen, and they talk about a mutual acquaintance that Grant knows in prison. On March 4th, Grant calls Nick, and they discuss purchasing an Xbox controller for Grant while he's incarcerated. Nick said he would pay for the controller, and Grant responds by saying, "You or Carmen, one of the two." Nick said he tried to give Carmen $100 the day before to pay her back. Carmen said to keep it because she had just made $1,000 selling fentanyl. The call was placed the same day Eric died. On March 27th, Carmen was arrested on misdemeanor traffic offenses. And then on May 2nd, she was interviewed by investigators. And then she admitted to selling Kouri fentanyl in the range of 15 to 30 pills on 2 separate occasions for $900 each time. And that was about a month before Eric's death. She told of how they exchanged the money for pills, the pickup, the drop-off locations, and other details that were verified through digital forensic evidence. Now, through their investigation, they discovered that Kouri's mother, Lisa, was living with an adult female who she was in a romantic relationship with. In April of 2006, the woman died unexpectedly, and autopsy showed the cause of death was overdose of oxycodone. They also found that Kouri's mom, Lisa, was named the sole beneficiary of the woman's estate shortly before her death. The woman did have a prescription for oxycodone and had struggled with abusing the medication in the past, but she was not in a state of recovery from addiction at the time of her death, and investigators said this would likely rule out accidental overdose. In reviewing downloads of Kouri's phone, it was clear she was close with her mom and communicates almost daily. Some of those communications showed disdain for Eric on Lisa's part due to the close proximity of her to her partner's suspicious overdose death and her relationship with Kouri. Investigators say it is possible she was involved in planning and orchestrating Eric's death. On May 8th of last year, detectives served a search warrant on Lisa's house, and a blue Samsung phone was recovered and identified as Lisa's current cell phone. They requested a search warrant for that phone. As of now, we do not know the outcome or what was found on that phone. But Kouri's attorney, Sky Lazaro, said in a statement, "This is nothing more than a baseless conspiracy theory. Opioid addiction and fentanyl overdose is a rampant problem throughout the country. The fact that Ms. Darden's significant other was one of the millions that suffered from and ultimately succumbed to opioid addiction is hardly suspicious. It is tragic and unfortunately quite common. The fact that Ms. Darden was the beneficiary of her romantic partner's life insurance policy is also not unique. It only demonstrates that her circumstances are no different than most families in America. To suggest otherwise is nothing more than a baseless conspiracy theory." A spokesperson for the family of Alec Richins said it makes it more likely that Kouri could have said, "Yes, that's something that occurred once before. It worked. Let's try it again." Nothing about this seems surprising because we always felt Kouri's mother was in some way involved in this. The parallels are really very similar and kind of spooky. Curious to see where that goes. This case is going to be a very, very interesting one when it hits trial. Moving on to Hannah Gutierrez Reed. We just wrapped up that trial a couple of weeks ago. She was convicted March 6th of involuntary manslaughter in the death of Helena Hutchins on the Rust movie set. She faces 18 months in prison. Her sentencing is set for April 15th. On Friday, her attorneys asked the judge to release her from jail where she is currently awaiting sentencing and also asked for a new trial, citing a ruling in New Mexico just recently on another case. That Supreme Court opinion was issued just last Thursday, overturning the conviction of 2 daycare workers on similar grounds. In that case, the jury instructions included 4 separate acts under the and/or wording that created confusion and misdirection. They've ordered a new trial for those 2, and Hannah's attorneys say in the motion, the opinion will almost certainly lead to Hannah's conviction being overturned. And the basis of this stems from jury instructions that were given to jurors, which said they were to find that Hannah loaded live ammunition into Alec Baldwin's gun and or that she failed to properly check the ammunition. The defense says the and/or language allowed jurors to convict even if the vote was not unanimous on either act. They're asking she be let out of jail as the appeal works its way through the courts. Moving on to Alec Baldwin. We know he was recharged with involuntary manslaughter in January, faces the same 18 months in prison if convicted. His attorneys are asking for his indictment to be tossed. They filed a 52-page motion to dismiss last Thursday. His attorneys say the state prosecutors have engaged in this misconduct and publicly dragged Baldwin through the cesspool created by their impropriety, without any regard for the fact that serious criminal charges have been hanging over his head for 2.5 years. Enough is enough. This is an abuse of the system and an abuse of an innocent person whose rights have been trampled to the extreme. If the state had conducted the grand jury process consistent with New Mexico law, the outcome should and almost certainly would have been different. In short, the state concealed substantial exculpatory and favorable evidence from the grand jury. The court should therefore dismiss the indictment. They're also challenging the state's gun expert by the name of Michael Hagg, who testified at the grand jury. Baldwin's defense says the expert omitted several essential facts regarding the testing, including that the FBI testing established that the gun did fire without a trigger pull when the firearm was fully loaded with 6 rounds, as it was on the day of the incident. Baldwin has maintained he did not pull the trigger. They also say that the DA did not present all evidence to the grand jury regarding the testing of that firearm. If you followed Hannah's trial, you may remember the FBI firearms expert who testified about hitting that gun with a mallet over and over. And when he got to the butt of the gun and struck it, it did fire. The FBI witness said on the stand that was due to internal damage to the gun from previous mallet strikes during the same testing. Baldwin's attorney cited a 2014 Supreme Court decision that found the prosecution in that case prevented the grand jury from inquiring into the facts demonstrating probable cause and failed to act in a fair and impartial manner when instructing the grand jury. Baldwin maintains he was told the firearm did not have live ammunition and also that the victim, Miss Hutchins, was directing him where to point the firearm and says the firearm went off after pulling the hammer back while the revolver was fully loaded. The filing also said that 3 of the grand jury witnesses were on the DA's payroll. 2 of them were from Santa Fe Sheriff's Office and 1 was suing Baldwin in a civil case. What happens if the charges were to be dismissed? I mean, the prosecution could just bring the case before another grand jury. That's it for today. Still hoping to get in another update episode. A few things on Chad Daybell, whose trial is rapidly approaching, and some other cases we've been following. Tomorrow, I'll jump back into the wiretaps in the Scott Peterson case. We're doing a deep dive on that from day 1 up to now in his quest for a new trial. Until then, hope you guys have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon.